The world tilted sideways as I stared at my phone in the daycare parking lot, raindrops hammering against the windshield like accusations. The metallic taste of copper flooded my mouth as my brain tried to process the text message from Marcus. Moving to Barcelona with Vanessa, transferred the savings to cover your half. Good luck. My vision tunneled to those 8 words, the steering wheel slick under my suddenly sweating palms. Inside that building, Sophie, my 5-year-old daughter, was probably showing off her latest finger painting to anyone who'd look, completely unaware that her father had just blown up our lives with the emotional investment of someone canceling a Netflix subscription. I'm Natalie Reeves, I'm 36, and I used to be a senior graphic designer. This is the story of how I made sure Marcus learned that some things you can't just walk away from. The checking account showed $487 when I pulled it up with shaking fingers. Our savings, $14,200 scraped together over 8 years, gone. Rent was $2,350 due in 6 days. I sat there in my 13-year-old Honda, rain drumming overhead, and felt something crack open inside me. Not despair, something colder, sharper. I'd spent 3 years scaling back my career to freelance work so Marcus could chase his big break in marketing. I'd been the one up at 3 in the morning when Sophie had croup, because Marcus needed his sleep for important client meetings. And now he'd cashed out like I was some business partnership he'd dissolved. Inside the daycare, Sophie crashed into my legs, her dark pigtails bouncing. "Mommy, did you see it rained? Can we jump in puddles?" I knelt down, forcing my face into something resembling normal. "Not today, honey. How about hot chocolate at home instead?" At our cramped Northeast Portland apartment, I settled Sophie with her tablet and called the bank. The representative confirmed what I already knew. Joint account, legal withdrawal, nothing we can do. I checked our credit cards next, all maxed out. 3 cards totaling $18,000, all charges from the past 2 weeks, hotels, flights, an $800 charge at a jewelry store with Barcelona in the name. Marcus had been planning this for a while. My phone buzzed. Marcus's mother, Diane, her voice dripping with false concern. "Natalie, dear, Marcus told me about your situation. He mentioned you've been unstable lately. Perhaps it's best if Sophie stays with me in Seattle for a while?" The audacity hit me like a slap. Unstable? Well, you did have that episode after Sophie was born. Marcus is just worried about her safety. My postpartum depression. The thing I'd fought through with therapy and medication while Marcus supported me by documenting every bad day, every tear, every moment of struggle. I'd trusted him when he said he was just trying to understand. Now I saw it for what it was, insurance. "Sophie's fine exactly where she is, Diane." "We'll see what the courts say about that." She hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, connecting dots I'd been too trusting to see before. Marcus's late nights. Vanessa, his assistant, always texting him during dinner. The way he'd encouraged me to open up about my depression while secretly documenting it. The suggestion 6 months ago that I should see someone again after a completely normal bad day. He'd been building a case. But Marcus had made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated what a graphic designer does all day. We solve problems. We see patterns. We create narratives. And I'd spent 8 years watching him work, learning every trick in his playbook. I opened my laptop and got to work. First, I accessed our shared cloud storage using Marcus's predictable password, Sophie's birthday plus our anniversary. Inside were folders I wasn't supposed to see. Barcelona plan, custody strategy, financial exit. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through months of preparation. Emails between Marcus and Diane detailing how they'd use my medical history, spreadsheets calculating minimum support payments, a drafted petition for full custody citing my mental health concerns. But what made my blood run cold was the bank statement from an account I'd never seen before. Cayman Islands, $47,000. Money that should have been ours, hidden away for his fresh start. I downloaded everything to an encrypted drive, my mind racing. Marcus thought he'd planned everything, but he'd left his playbook wide open. The next morning, I called every graphic design firm in Portland, asking for their marketing contacts. By noon, I'd confirmed what I suspected. Marcus had been pitching himself to Horizon Global Barcelona for 3 months, using work he'd done at his current company. with my designs, my concepts, the campaigns I'd freelanced on while he took credit. I contacted Horizon Global's HR directly, posing as a reference check from Marcus's current employer, and learned his start date, 8 days from now. The next afternoon, I sat across from Rachel Martinez, a divorce attorney recommended by my college roommate, in her office overlooking the Willamette River. Her office was all glass and steel certainty. "What he did isn't illegal," Rachel said after reviewing my evidence, "but it's morally bankrupt. Judges hate this. We can file emergency motions for child support and freeze his assets, but we need to prove he's hiding income." I slid the printed Cayman account statement across her desk. "Already done." Rachel's eyebrows lifted. "How did you—" "He used our daughter's birthday as his password for everything. He's not as clever as he thinks." "We can work with this." She leaned forward. "But Natalie, this is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about Sophie asking where Daddy was that morning, her confused face when I'd said he was on a work trip. "Whatever it takes." "My retainer is usually $5,000, Rachel said carefully, "but I can work on contingency. I'll take my fees from the assets we recover. Based on what you've shown me, there's more than enough here." That evening, while Sophie slept, I did something I'd sworn I'd never do. I called Vanessa. I'd found her number easily enough, saved in Marcus's phone contacts in the cloud backup, listed under V Work. She answered on the third ring, her voice cautious. "Natalie?" "We need to talk, woman to woman." A long pause. "I don't think—" "He's hiding $47,000 from both of us, Vanessa. Did he tell you about that?" Silence. "There's a Cayman account. Money he claimed we didn't have while I was rationing groceries. Money he's planning to use to start his Barcelona life. How much of it do you think you'll see?" "That's— Marcus said you guys were broke, that you spent everything on—" "On what? Feeding our daughter? Paying rent? Meanwhile, he was taking us both for a ride." I let that sink in. "Look, I know you're not the villain here. He is. But you need to know who you're moving to Spain with." Another long silence then. "There's something else. Another account in Liechtenstein. Over $200,000. He told me it was from an inheritance, that we'd use it to buy a place in Barcelona." My heart hammered. $200,000? "I have the account information. I was helping him organize his files for the move last week and found a statement he'd printed out and left in his briefcase. When I asked him about it, he got scary. Told me to forget I'd seen it." Her voice cracked. "I thought I was building a life with someone honest. I didn't know he had a family until 2 months ago, Natalie. I swear to God." "I believe you," I said, and surprisingly, I did. Marcus had compartmentalized us both, sold us both different versions of reality. "Will you help me? Provide documentation?" "If you promise immunity, I can't afford a legal battle." "I'll talk to my lawyer. But Vanessa, get out before he does to you what he did to me." Rachel drafted an immunity agreement, and by midnight, Vanessa had sent bank statements, emails, and a sworn statement detailing Marcus's timeline. The Liechtenstein account was the crown jewel. Money Marcus had been hiding for over 2 years, probably skimmed from his salary and bonuses, while claiming we were barely making ends meet. I filed for emergency custody at 6 in the morning, beating Marcus to the courthouse. By noon, I had a hearing scheduled for the next day, and Marcus's accounts were temporarily frozen. Marcus was still in Portland. His Barcelona flight wasn't scheduled until tomorrow evening, so I knew exactly when he'd see the notifications. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing. My phone exploded with calls. I let them all go to voicemail, except one. Marcus's voice was pure venom. "I'm trying to do this amicably, and you—" "Amicably? You stole our savings, maxed our credit cards, and planned to take my daughter. What part of that is amicable?" "That money was mine." "The Cayman account? The Liechtenstein funds? You've been hiding over $250,000 while I've been cutting coupons and taking on night shifts. How's that for amicable, Marcus?" His silence was gratifying. "You went through my files. You used my daughter's birthday as your password. Did you really think I wouldn't look?" I kept my voice steady, each word a scalpel. See you in court tomorrow. Oh, and Marcus, your flight to Barcelona tomorrow night? You won't be on it. The judge will make sure of that. I hung up before he could respond, my hands finally steady. The following morning, I walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I'd imagined, but Rachel commanded it like a stage. She presented the evidence methodically. The drained account, the hidden funds, the custody conspiracy documented in Marcus's own emails. When she introduced Vanessa's statement, I watched Marcus's lawyer's face drain of color. Diane sat behind Marcus, her designer suit a armor of respectability. But when Rachel called her as a witness, showing emails where Diane had coached Marcus on documenting Natalie's instability, that armor cracked. You helped your son plan to take my client's daughter using medical records you shouldn't have had access to, Rachel said, her voice sharp. Care to explain? Diane's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The judge, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair, looked at Marcus with open disgust. Mr. Reeves, I've seen a lot in this courtroom, but this level of premeditation is remarkable. She adjusted her glasses. You drained marital assets, hid substantial funds, and plotted to use your wife's medical history against her, a history developed while caring for your child. Did you think that would work? Marcus opened his mouth, but his lawyer grabbed his arm. I'm granting Mrs. Reeves full temporary custody, the judge continued. All accounts are frozen pending forensic accounting. You'll have supervised visitation rights only, and you're ordered to pay immediate child support of $3,200 monthly. You're also restricted from leaving the country. She looked at Diane. Mrs. Reeves, the court will be investigating your role in this scheme. I suggest you retain separate counsel. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in weeks. But I wasn't done. That night, I crafted an email from a burner account to Horizon Global Barcelona's compliance department. Not as Natalie. That would be too obvious, but as an anonymous industry contact concerned about their new hire. I attached nothing inflammatory, just publicly available court records from our custody hearing. The frozen accounts, the hidden funds, the restraining order. No lies, just facts. I knew how corporate HR worked. Marcus had taught me himself during those dinner conversations where he'd bragged about perception management. A senior marketing hire with active legal proceedings, frozen accounts, and fraud investigations, that wasn't just bad optics, that was a liability. The call came 2 days later. I was helping Sophie build a blanket fort when my phone rang. Marcus, his voice hoarse. They fired me. Horizon rescinded the offer, said I misrepresented my legal situation during hiring. I said nothing, letting him fill the silence. This was you. You contacted them. I didn't have to lie, Marcus. I just shared the truth. Publicly available court documents. You built this trap yourself. You've destroyed my career. No, you destroyed your own career when you committed fraud, abandoned your daughter, and tried to weaponize my medical history. I just made sure people knew who they were hiring. I kept my voice level, almost clinical. You taught me that, remember. In marketing, perception is everything. Natalie, you wanted a clean break? You've got one. But you don't get to walk away with my daughter and the money while I pick up the pieces. That's not how this works. I hung up and blocked his number. Sophie looked up from her fort, curious. Who was that, Mommy? Nobody important, sweetie. Want to add more pillows? The forensic accounting took 3 months and revealed everything. The Cayman account, the Liechtenstein funds, plus a third account in Switzerland with another $80,000. Marcus had been skimming for years, preparing his exit while I'd been clipping coupons. The total came to over $350,000. Money he'd hidden while claiming we were struggling. The judge wasn't amused. Marcus was ordered to return all marital assets plus penalties. Diane faced wire fraud charges for her role in transferring money to help Marcus hide assets. Her Seattle Country Club membership was quietly revoked when the charges became public. Marcus's name became a whispered warning in Portland's marketing circles. The guy who tried to abandon his kid and got caught. Vanessa sent me a single text 3 weeks after the hearing. Thank you for saving me from making the worst mistake of my life. She'd moved back to California and taken a job with a tech startup. The divorce proceedings moved quickly after that. With all the evidence laid bare and Marcus's credibility destroyed, his lawyer advised him not to contest anything. 4 months after that first devastating text message, I sat in a different courtroom as the judge declared our marriage officially dissolved. Marcus didn't even show up for the final hearing. With the recovered funds, I bought a small house in Portland's Montevilla neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but ours. I returned to full-time design work at an agency that actually valued my contributions. Sophie started kindergarten and declared herself the best artist in class, just like her mom. One evening, Marcus requested to video call Sophie, one of his supervised rights. I set up the tablet and watched from the doorway as Sophie showed him her latest drawings, chattering about her new friends. Marcus's face on screen looked older, defeated. When Sophie finished and ran off to play, he stayed on the line. Natalie, Don't. I moved closer to the camera. You don't get to apologize your way out of what you did. You planned to take everything, our money, our daughter, my credibility. The only reason you didn't succeed is because you underestimated me. I know, I was selfish and... You were calculating, there's a difference. I leaned forward. But here's what you didn't calculate. I'm a designer. We solve problems. We see what others miss. We create the narrative. I smiled, cold and satisfied. You wrote the villain's playbook and left it where I could read it. That's not my fault. That's yours. His jaw tightened. Sophie deserves better than this. You're right, she does. That's why I fought for her. I reached for the tablet. Your 10 minutes are up. I ended the call and found Sophie building a block tower in her room, humming to herself. She looked up with that gap-toothed smile that still made my heart ache. Mommy, when I grow up, can I be an artist like you? Baby, you can be anything you want. Even better than Daddy at his job? I knelt beside her, helping stack another block. Especially better than Daddy at his job. She giggled, and the sound was worth every sleepless night, every court appearance, every moment of doubt. Marcus had tried to erase us from his story. Instead, I'd rewritten the ending. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new home office, a real office with a door and everything, when an email arrived from a former colleague of Marcus's. Inside was a forwarded message chain. Marcus had been applying to marketing positions across Europe, and his former company was sending warning letters to every firm he contacted. Professional blacklist wasn't an official thing, but in tight industries like marketing, word traveled fast. I didn't send those letters. His old colleagues did it themselves, disgusted by what they'd learned during the trial. Court proceedings are public record, after all, and several had attended to support me. Marcus had built his own professional grave. Diane's wire fraud case took nearly a year to resolve, but she eventually accepted a plea deal: probation, community service, and restitution. The threat of prison time had aged her considerably, according to mutual acquaintances. I deleted the email about Marcus and opened my design software, losing myself in a new project for a nonprofit client. Sophie was at school, the house was quiet, and I was finally building the life I'd put on hold. Not the life I'd planned, something better, something I'd fought for, something entirely mine. Marcus's text had said, "Good luck," like I was a problem he'd solved. He didn't know that some women don't need luck. We make our own justice, one careful move at a time. And when we're done, there's nothing left but the truth. To everyone who followed this story, thank you for walking this journey with me. If what Natalie and Sophie went through resonated with you, if you've ever felt erased, underestimated, or written off, hit that subscribe button. Share this if someone needs to hear that fighting back is possible. Leave a comment about your own story of reclaiming your power. We're not just surviving anymore. We're rebuilding, one brushstroke at a time. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.